One time he said, one ayah, I can give reference to 100 different sources. 100 different sources. Just on one ayah. You would simply understand him as a Google search, the information that this man had. Rahimahullahu rahmatan wasi'ah. When he died and passed away, what happened was, his works were buried. A lot of them were buried, and a lot of it was burnt, sadly enough. It was destroyed. So, Ibn Shaykh al-Hizamin, Ahmaduddin al-Wasiti, he wrote a letter talking to the students of Ibn Taymiyya. He mentions this in his kitab At-Tadhkirah wal-I'tibar. And he mentions in that how now that Ibn Taymiyya has died, the students of the Shaykh should come together. And you all know whose students they were. Imagine having these people as your students. His students were Abu Abdullah Ibn al-Rushayq. Some of you don't know him. He was the master of the works of Ibn Taymiyya. He was the only one who had the best ability to read it. Another person who's very good at reading Ibn Taymiyya's works and very familiar with it, was Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyya rahimahullah. Also, from the people that benefited from Ibn Taymiyya and took from him is Ibn Kathir rahimahullah. Ibn Kathir is from the students of who? Ibn Taymiyya. And from the students also of Ibn Taymiyya was Al-Imam al-Dhahabi. Al-Imam al-Dhahabi. Abu Hafs al-Barzali, I mentioned, al-Bazzar, sorry, Abu Hafs al-Bazzar was one of his students. Alamuddin al-Barzali was also from the students of Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyya. All of these people are today considered the giants of Islamic history. He was a university who produced the biggest giants we know of. Ibn Kathir is the one who wrote Al-Bidayah wa-Nihaya. You know why we call it Bidayah wa-Nihaya? He started from the first creation Allah created, and he took it to until the last person goes to Jannah and the last person goes to Hellfire. So, Ibn Kathir is a mufassir. His tafsir, we all know it, right? Tafsir Ibn Kathir. He has a kitab called Ikhtisar Ulum al-Hadith, Mustalah al-Hadith. He's a faqih, imam. But what madhab was he from? He was a Shafi'i. Ibn Taymiyya's students wasn't Hanbali, like they were all madhabs. Dhahabi's madhab, what's your madhab? Shafi'i. And Imam Dhahabi is a what? Shafi'i. Fuqaha al-Ahnaf, from them, from the great scholars of the Hanafi madhab, is Ibn Abil Izz al-Hanafi, who explained the Sharh Aqid Tahawiyah. And to understand the weight of the works of Ibn Taymiyya, the Kitab al-Aqid Tahawiyah, the Sharh is written by who? Is Ibn Abil Izz al-Hanafi, right? Ibn Abil Izz al-Hanafi, his whole entire book is reference from Ibn Taymiyya and Ibn al-Qayyim. That's what the whole book. Are we all together, brothers? The whole kitab, Sharh Ibn Abil Izz al-Hanafi on Sharh Aqid Tahawiyah is what? Ibn Taymiyya and who? Ibn al-Qayyim. But was he able to reference Ibn Taymiyya and Ibn al-Qayyim? Why did he not mention it was their works? Is that plagiarism? No. He didn't do it because he would be imprisoned if he did. You can't mention these men. Are we all together? It's illegal. So he just had to take their quotes and not reference them. So, Abu Abdullah Ibn Rushayq, Ibn al-Qayyim, they tried to save as much as they could from the works of Ibn Taymiyya. They protected as much as they could. They copied a lot of that which they could. Students were given to take it, write it, keep it. don't, and hide it. Until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He brought out giants after that, who came out to work on the works of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyya and bring it out into the light. From them is Jalaluddin al-Qasimi from Sham, Muhammad Rashid Rida from Egypt, Muhammad Rashad Salim. By the way, Muhammad Rashad Salim, he did tahqiqat of many of the works of Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyya, and he graduated from it was either Oxford or Cambridge University. He was an Egyptian Shaykh. He served the works of Ibn Taymiyya. Also from the people who worked on the works of Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyya is Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad Abdul Wahhab. And the entire madrasa of Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, they took on the works of who? Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyya. From Iraq, Muhammad Shukri al-Alusi, rahimahullah. He worked on the works of Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyya, rahimahullah. Shaykh Muhammad Nasiruddin al-Albani, rahimahullah. Shaykh Abdul Aziz ibn Baz, Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen, and all of these great scholars, they endorsed the works. Until an organization that was run by Al-Allama Bakr ibn Abdullah Abu Zayd. Shaykh Bakr Abu Zayd started the biggest movement to revive the works of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. And he worked towards it. And it started with him. And of course he died and it wasn't finished. It was working on the works of a few great Imams. From them was Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn al-Qayyim, and Muhammad al-Amin al-Shanqiti, and Abdul Rahman Yahya al-Muallimi. And they all got published by a publication called Dar Alim al-Fawaid. Dar Alim al-Fawaid took on it with the Isharaf of Shaykh Bakr Abu Zayd. A few people were the muhaqqiqeen of the works. A few people were selected to work on the works. From them is Shaykh Ali al-Imran, Shaykh Muhammad Uzair Shams was one of the members, Abdul Rahman ibn Hassan Qa'id, Muhammad Jamil al-Islahi, I think. A few of them stood up to work on the mu'allafat of Shaykh. The biggest of them, of course, who had the biggest hand in it, who did tahqiq of the majority of the books, was Shaykh Muhammad Uzair Shams. Shaykh Muhammad Uzair Shams single-handedly really done one of the biggest works. He's a scholar from India, rahimahullah. And he spent a good portion of his life on the works of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. Daqiq, books that no one thought, that even Ibn Taymiyyah wrote, were brought out to the world and people saw it for the first time. Like we didn't even know this book existed. Dar Alim al-Fawaid published it. Dar Alim al-Fawaid was financially supported by the owner of Bank Al-Rajihi Bank, Sheikh Salih Al-Rajihi. He was the one who used to do tamwil of the project. But then the project got removed from his wealth, and the Dar Alim al-Fawaid ended. Dar Alim al-Fawaid ended. So what happened was, two big publication companies came together called Dar Ibn Hazm and Ata'atul Ilm. They came together, combined efforts, and they again republished some of the works, because the books they finish, right? When the people take it, they finish it. They need people to give it life, keep going. Or if 100 years goes by, the books are not found, and the people who own it are not giving it out. So there has to be a pumping machine that pumps the books all the time. So Ata'atul Ilm and Dar Ibn Hazm seem to be publishing it. Every now and then it finishes from the market, but alhamdulillah, I heard that they're going to bring it all out again. From the first of them to the last, they're going to bring. That being said, Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyya, no one can really tell you what he's written. His books are too many. There are thousands and thousands of works. He never consulted people when he wrote. So he would write quickly and that would be taken by another person. As you know, his works, they were restricted. His works were from particular lands. People would ask him questions. Someone would come from Wasit and they would ask him a question and it would be called Aqidatul Wasatiyya, Aqidatul Hamawiyya from Hama, Aqidatul Tadmuriyya from Tadmur, Aqidatul Madaniyya from Medina. People would ask him questions and he would answer those questions and it would be named after the city. That person might take it for themselves. Are we all together? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the thing is, you all have to understand is, who thought that his works would become like this? You rarely find a book. Whether they like him or not, he's quoted in there. He's inside that book. Somewhere. Whether it be non-Muslim or Muslim, it doesn't matter. Are we all together? And one of the best actually, to be honest, biographies that were done on Ibn Taymiyya's life in the English language is done by a non-Muslim. His name's called John Hoover. There's 2 places I feel like he did a mistake on, but the rest of the book, John Hoover was just and fair in the way he wrote Ibn Taymiyyah's life. He's a non-Muslim. Ibn Taymiyyah caught the attention of the Orientalists, the Christian missionaries, the Jews, everyone. He studied in universities. His PhDs, dissertations. An Orientalist I met in my days in London when I used to go to the British Library, a guy I met there, he said to me, in history, no one has ever written a work as powerful as Ibn Taymiyyah on the issue of al-aql and naql. How to reconcile between logic and text. And he said to me, wallahi, this is the words that this man said to me. He said to me, Abdul Rahman, the world today is just fighting over that. The concept Ibn Taymiyyah was talking about then is what the arguments today are. Separate the government from religion, right? All of these isms that you're hearing. Everything humans are coming with. Science is what? What is science based on? It's based on, right now, the scientists, the atheists, what are they pushing right now? Science can explain everything. Leave science, let science say things to us. Don't bring religion into science. Sah? Are we all together? Funny enough, that statement itself is an unscientific statement. Sah? To say science can explain everything is an unscientific statement. Sah? Because what's science based on? Empirical evidence, right? Can they empirically prove that science can explain everything? The point I'm trying to say to you is, wallahi, billahi, tallahi, qasaman liman ahalla al-qasam, I swear by Allah, anyone who reads kitabu Dar'u Ta'arud al-Aql, Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, Dar'u Ta'arud al-Aql wa al-Naql, wastaw'abaha, and swallows it. I mean, read it with understanding of what he's saying. You will not find anything on this earth today that people are pushing except he's answered it there. I swear by Allah, and I will stand in front of Yawm al-Qiyamah. That book, all of the misguidances that the people are coming with today, from whether they be amongst Islam and the Muslims, or whether it be the non-Muslims, whatever it may be, you will not find except a response to it by Ibn Taymiyyah in that kitab. And it's considered to be one of his masterpiece. We all together. Dar'u Ta'arud al-Aqli wa al-Naql. It's called Dar'u, is to repel. He called it Dar'u Ta'arud al-Aqli wa al-Naql. It's about 17 volumes. It's about 17 volumes. What does he talk about there? Only one thing. Only one point he's focusing on, this. Logic and revelation. He says something very powerful. He says, Rahimahullah ta'ala, the religion of Allah Azza wa Jalla does not bring to us in the revelation, yani the revelation never comes with the impossible. We will never see something in the revelation we're like, whoa, that's impossible. But the revelation might bring what may confuse our minds, but not impossible. He divides it into mahalatul uqul and maharatul uqul. Are you all together? There might be something you might scratch your head and say, but it's not impossible. And that scratch that you're scratching your head and you're like, I don't understand this, is subjective. It's to you maybe. Because there are external factors that are causing you to feel this way. Maybe the society and the environment and the people you've grown up with is why you're thinking like this. Does that make sense? He put down something phenomenal. He said, Rahimahullah, in that book, the text, the Quran and the Sunnah, and logic, if you think when you come to it, they go against each other, it's one of the following reasons. Either the text is weak, and somebody told you of a weak narration. If you research the hadith, you're going to find it's a weak hadith. Or you are mentally deficient. And this is not to everybody else, it's just to you. Are we all together? Does that make sense? That's the only two possibilities. But it's never possible. A evidence which is sahihun, sarihun, he uses those two words. Sahihun, authentic. And sarihun is direct. Goes against the what? He challenged them for this. He bring it to me. One, I'm here to show you the way to reconcile it. Are we all together, brothers? And the way he answered, because this book, by the way, he's refuting Fakhruddin al-Razi. Fakhruddin al-Razi, one of the head of the Asha'ira, right? Fakhruddin al-Razi is if the Asha'ira say, قال الإمام, they're referring to Fakhruddin al-Razi. So Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyya is refuting him because Fakhruddin al-Razi claimed that if logic and the text go against each other, he said that there's the following ways that they should be reconciled between. What are they? He said we either take the logic, we either take the text. No, first he said, Fakhruddin Razi said, first of all, we accept both of them. And he said, النقيضان لا يجتمعان. You can't take two opposites. Fakhruddin Razi is saying this. We have an ayah and a logic going against each other. He said, you either take both of them. And he said, that's not possible. You can't take two opposites. Does that make sense? And he said, we reject them both. That's also not possible. You're in a situation you can only take one of two. Are we all together? So he said, those two options are gone. We only have two more options. He said, the third option is, you take the text, you take the what? You take the text and you reject the logic. And he said, that's not going to work. Why? Because if you take the text and you reject the logic, what brought you to the text was logic in the first place. So by taking the text, you've in essence really rejected the text as well, he said. Does that make sense? Because it's logic that brought you to the text in the first place. So if you dismiss logic and you take the text was sitting on logic. You pulled out logic, the text goes, it falls. There's no text anywhere for you. Okay? So the only option you have, which is the fourth, Fakhruddin Razi said, is you take the logic and you dismiss the text. And that's what the Asha'ira are upon. Ibn Taymiyya came and said, this is qawlan azima. And you know how he responded? He said, no. Who told you By the way, to them you have to be logical in response. He said, who told you that if logic brought me to something and then I suspend logic for a bit and take text over it, that means in essence that I have what? Rejected logic. Rejected text. He said, I'll show you that is a flawed argument. How? He said, let's say you wanted to go to a doctor. You had an illness and you wanted a doctor. And somebody said to you, I will take you to the doctor. I know there is a doctor who specializes in your illness. Come with me, I'll take you. That person drove you, they took you to the doctor, and then you're now talking to the doctor. The person who brought you to the doctor says to you, don't listen to the doctor. And you're like, no, I don't want to listen to you. I need to speak to the doctor. Please, can you let me just talk to the doctor? Can I just please talk to the doctor? And the person says, why are you dismissing me for? I was the one who brought you to the doctor in the first place. Does that make sense? Ibn Taymiyya, he said, you just rejected the person who brought you to the doctor, because now that they brought you to the doctor's going to tell you what your illness is and what medication you take. If logic brought you to the text, I can suspend it if I want to and just take what? The text. Does that make sense? Does that make sense what he said? That's just him refuting them in that regard. But he didn't believe that logic and text anyways goes against each other. Logic and text, Ibn Taymiyyah never believed it went against each other in the first place. He went against that whole premise and he proved that he doesn't. And the non-Muslim, subhanAllah, he dismantled them. One of the beautiful things I like about Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah is that he doesn't just say no to something. Nor does he just say yes. I love this about him, rahimahullah. What do I mean by that? He is the type to say yes, and my reason is this. And he will explain his reason. Whether you agree with him or not, that's different. But he has the desire to explain. He allows the person to know where he's coming from. Are we all together? One of his most powerful statements is, he said, فَإِنِّي كُنْتُ دَائِمًا أَعْلَمُ أَنَّ عِلْمَ الْمَنْطِقِ لَا يَسْتَفِيدُ مِنْهُ لا يحتاج إليه الذكي ولا يستفيد منه البليد ولا ينتفع منه البليد فإني كنت دائما أعلم أن المنطق اليوناني he said, I always knew that Greek logic لا يحتاج إليه الذكي, the smart person does not need it, ولا ينتفع منه البليد, and the dim-witted one, the dullard person, okay, will not benefit from it. And he said, my reason is the following. And he wrote a whole kitab on it, called الرد على المنطقيين. Are we all together, brothers? Where he proves, because logic is, the logic is built upon what? It's built upon two things. Mantiq is built on two things. Entire mantiq that you hear, logic that you hear stands on two things. Perception and judgment. Perception, what they also call conceptualization of something. To conceptualize something and to pass a judgment on it. You all heard the famous statement of the scholars, الحكم على شيء فرع عن تصوري. Before you place a ruling on a matter, you have to have a perception of it. Does that make sense? So logic is define this thing and then pass a ruling on it. Ibn Taymiyya went after them on the issue of a tasawwur, perception and conceptualization. What does it mean to conceptualize something? And are the Greek logicians, are they correct in their methodology? That's a long story. I don't want to bore you with that. But he was a hamilu liwa'i, a hamilu rayatihi. He was carrying the banner of even the sciences that Plato, and Socrates and Aristotle claimed. He, the Shaykh rahimahullah ta'ala, was above and beyond them. Are we all together, brothers? One of the people who pushed the works of Aristotle and just were all over it is Ibn Sina. Farabi came before Ibn Sina. Farabi explained the works of Ibn Sina, and Ibn Sina came after Farabi, and he benefited from Al-Farabi. Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyya rahimahullah ta'ala, he dismantled Ibn Sina's positions and even proved that he himself doesn't actually know what he is talking about. ولذلك, that kitab, to learn Arabic for it is must. To study a lot of sciences is also a must. But a student of knowledge should take time out to study the works of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyya. I don't believe that today anyone can be without it. It's a must. You have to. It's a must. Ibn Taymiyya's works is a must. I'm not saying blind follow everything he says, but it's a must. There's two men that occupy the world, and today's ideologies, they stand on these two men. Everyone who comes stands on the shoulder of these two men. One is Ibn Taymiyyah and the other one is who? Ibn Taymiyyah is under Ibn al-Qayyim. The world today, the groups of people that are fighting today and all the disagreements and back and forth in the world that you see today, stand on two big men's shoulders. Who are they? One is Ibn Taymiyyah and the other one is? Imam al-Shafi'i and Ahmad ibn Hanbal, all Ibn Taymiyyah represents them. Yeah? Come on. Two men you have to know. Everybody who came after these two men, take from them. You are either going to be this way, Ibn Taymiyyah, and we all know where you're going to end. Or you take this path and we know where you're going to end. It is Abu Hamid al-Ghazali. Those are the two men. You take Abu Hamid al-Ghazali's path, you become an Ash'ari, Sufi. You take this path, you're a Sunni Salafi. So these two men have to be studied. The impact that Ibn Taymiyyah had on the world, Abu Hamid al-Ghazali had that as well. With all honesty. And that's why you see Ibn Taymiyyah's refutations were very solid against who? Abu Hamid al-Ghazali. Does that make sense? But today, when you look at the Sunnis today, one of these two groups, صح? The Asha'ira and the Sufis, Abu Hamid, صح? The Salafis, Ahlul Hadith, what did they say? Ibn Taymiyyah, صح? ولذلك شيخ محمد رشاد سالم, Sheikh Muhammad Rashad Salim, who specialized in the works of Ibn Taymiyyah that I mentioned to you guys, he's written a book called, what did he call it? You can find it online. It's, I don't remember the name of the book. Muhammad Rashad Salim. It's basically between Ibn Taymiyyah and Abu Hamid al-Ghazali. He writes, this is what Ibn Taymiyyah was, and this is what Abu Hamid al-Ghazali is. Yeah? Muhammad al-Ghazali was yesterday. Muhammad al-Ghazali was yesterday, meaning he was recent. Yesterday is a figurative speech, I don't mean yesterday. He's recent. We're talking about Abu Hamid al-Ghazali. You know Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, right? Yeah? Yeah? The author of the kitab, Ihya Ulumuddin, he has Ihya Ulumuddin. He has a kitab called Al-Qistas al-Mustaqim. He has a kitab called Al-Munqidhu min al-Dalalah. He has another kitab called Tahafut al-Falasifa. He has another kitab called Al-Mustasfa, which he wrote in Ilm Usul. He has a kitab called Al-Wasit, Wal-Wajiz, Wal-Basit, fi fiqh Shafi'i. He's a faqih Shafi'i. Faqih Shafi'i. What did the poet say? هذب المذهب حبر. Hey, what's the poetry? ببسيط هي ووسيط ووجيز وخلاصة. Those are the 4 books in the Shafi'i madhab. Are we all together? And he's a student of Abu Ma'ali al-Juwayni, al-Imam al-Haramain. You guys don't know Abu Ma'ali al-Juwayni? Al-Waraqat? Yeah? The author of Al-Waraqat, Abu Ma'ali al-Juwayni, he's student of Hamid al-Ghazali. So you have to study all this, by the way, brothers. If you don't know it, no problem. In life, there's always a starting point. There's a place you have to start from, right? So read these 2 madhabs, and so much came from it. لذلك أشاعرة أبي حامد الغزالي. Salafis and Ahl Hadith. Like all the scholars I mentioned to you, they all come from that madrasa of who? No, from Ibn Taymiyya. I'm talking about the muta'akhirin. I'm talking about those who came later. The muta'akhirin I'm talking about. Albani, Ibn Baz, Ibn Uthaymeen, all the ulama you see, they're all the madrasa of Ibn Taymiyya. Hatta Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, madrasa of Ibn Taymiyya. Goes back to who? Ibn Taymiyya. And also here, Abi Hamid al-Ghazali. Are we all together, brothers? All the Muhammad Zahid al-Kawthari and yeah? And Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda. What's his name? Mamduh.
For the Sufis, they're like from the Ottomans.
Ottomans. Oh, Abu Hamid al-Ghazali. Ghazali is the 6th century Imam. 6th century. Yeah? Ibn Taymiyyah is not. Ibn Taymiyyah is the 8th century Imam. There's 200 years between them.
So before the Ottomans, they were building that, the grave very well for the Sahabas. After Shaykh al-Islam came, then it's all happened. Like they demolished all of those things.
Ibn Taymiyyah was before the Ottoman Empire.
Before.
Of course, Ibn Taymiyyah was way before the Ottoman Empire.
Under his guidance, under his guidance means what he wrote about the grave must not be decorated.
But he's not the one who said that. The Prophet said that.
After.
No, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said to Ali ibn Abi Talib, Ali said to Abu Hayyaj al-Asadi, ألا أبعثك على ما بعثني رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Ali ibn Abi Talib said to Abu Hayyaj al-Asadi, shall I not send you with what the Prophet sent me with? What did he say to him? قبرا مشرفا إلا سويته. That you do not see a grave that's standing except you break it. You flatten it. So that was something the Prophet told Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ali told Abu Hayyaj al-Asadi. This is something the Prophet ﷺ 5 days before he died. What did he say? لَعَنَ اللَّهُ الْيَهُودَ وَالنَّصَارَى اتَّخَذُوا قُبُورَ أَنْبِيَاءِ مَسَاجِدِ. May Allah's curse be upon the Christians and the Jews. They took the graves of their what? Their righteous people, their people, they took it as masajid. Like, they took the concept of grave to us is a place to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to remember the day of judgment, to remember the day that we're going to all be here. But they took it as a place to worship. And in Islam we don't worship these people in the graves. Even though we know they're greater than us. The people in Baqi'. These are noble Sahabas radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. Ay na'am. Allahumma ameen.
Now, since you gave us a great speech regarding Ibn Taymiyyah as well, where should a student of knowledge start his first book reading Ibn Taymiyyah's works?
Ibn Taymiyyah's life, many people wrote about it. There's many works written on it. The biggest one is Al-Uqud al-Durriya fi ba'd manaqib Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyya by Ibn Abdul Hadi. It's the biggest. Everyone who comes, it's from there. He was a student of Ibn Taymiyyah. It's called Al-Uqud al-Durriya. That's the biggest book on the life of Ibn Taymiyyah. Al-Uqud al-Durriya. But there's other books that are written on his life. Abu Hafs al-Bazzar has a kitab called Al-I'lam al-Aliyah. He's written it. Abu Hafs al-Bazzar. Also, Sheikh Bakr Abu Zayd. Remember when they started the project that I mentioned to you, that Al Fawaid? They wrote what is called Al-Jami' li Sirati Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. They wrote Al-Jami'. In there they mentioned a lot of the books that they mentioned a good comprehensive biography of the Shaykh. And I think for 8 centuries, all the people, what they said about Ibn Taymiyyah is in there. So it's a very comprehensive book. If you can't read Arabic, then I think you should just get the book by John Hoover. John Hoover. John with not a H. It's just Jon. You can actually download it right now, and it's online. So you don't have to buy it.
What first book should we start from? the first book, as like introduction.
Of his life or his works?
No, his works.
Al-Wasitiyah. Al-Wasitiyah.
Al-Wasitiyah.
Ay, na'am.
Al-Wasitiyah.
Al-Wasitiyah is a must. That's where it all starts from you.
We should open the door.
It opens the door for you. Once you finish Al-Wasitiyah, you go for Al-Hamawiyah. Once you go for Al-Hamawiyah, you go for his Tadmuriyah. Once you go for his Tadmuriyah, you go for his Al-Asfahaniyah. Once you go for Sharh Al-Asfahaniyah, then mashallah, Allahumma barik. You now know what he's talking about. You can go everywhere.
All of these are from Ibn Taymiyyah.
All of them are Ibn Taymiyyah's. There's a muhadara done by Sheikh Salih Ali Sheikh. It's called كيف أقرأ كتب ابن تيمية. Good muhadara. Beautiful. There's a PDF which is mufarragh, and also a lecture, muhadara. You can listen to, you benefit from it a lot.
About that book by John Hoover, there was like a lot of couple of mistakes everything was working through.
There was like a two points mistakes I wrote on it. I can't remember now. But inshallah ta'ala, I want to planning inshallah ta'ala to do a lengthy series on the life of Ibn Taymiyyah. Very lengthy. I'm going to do it when I go back to the UAE inshallah ta'ala, to talk about this man's life in great details inshallah ta'ala. And after that I want to talk about every single works of his. I want to spend time explaining what this book is about, what he said in this book. Not teach the book, but really I'm talking about over 100 videos on just him, rahimahullah ta'ala, and his works, focusing on each one, taking his Kitab al-Hamawiyah, okay, and explaining why he wrote this book, where he wrote this, what made him write it, what's the best publication for it, all of the things related to every single part after I finish his biography.
What's the name of the book?
Yeah?
By John Hoover. What's the name of it?
It's called Ibn Taymiyyah or something like that, Life and Legacy or something like that.
Life and Legacy.
Just write John Hoover. Hoover is Jon, Hoover, Hoover.
That's only one book he has written on it.
Yeah, it's only one book of Ibn Taymiyyah. He's a non-Muslim. He teaches in the University of Nottingham in the UK, and he's specialized in Ibn Taymiyyah. Yani from the Orientalist, of course, specialized for us is like, please. But like he's specialized from the non-Muslim's perspective. All he does is just reads the works of Ibn Taymiyyah. All he does is reads Ibn Taymiyyah's works.
The title is Ibn Taymiyyah, that's it.
Yeah, Ibn Taymiyyah.
Ibn Taymiyyah.
Yeah, John Hoover, that's it.
What was the conflict with the ruler for which he was banned?
That's a good point. Ibn Taymiyyah wasn't a rebellious person. From his biography, with all honesty. He wasn't anti-government. He wasn't telling the people to go against the government or things like that. It's just that he had views that did not sit well with the constitution of his time. Of course, as you all know, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, rahimahullah ta'ala, may Allah bestow his never-ending mercy onto him, when he took over Egypt after the Crusades and he destroyed them and everything, what pushed amongst the Muslims was a belief called Ash'ari belief. So it spread so much. It became the dominant view for a long time. From the time of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, and Salahuddin being a righteous man, a great man, a man who's done a lot for Islam and the Muslims. Mahmud Nuruddin Zanki rahimahullah, who was also the leader of the Dawlatul Ayyubiyah. And him and Salahuddin were related, right? So these two men were good men. But the Ash'ari belief was what they pushed onto the people. And once there was a fitna that happened called Fitnatul Qushayriyah in Baghdad, where the Hanabila and the Ash'ari had a big fight. So this really pushed Ash'ari to the most dominant idea. There wasn't anyone you would find except there was Ash'ari at that period of time. So when he came, Ibn Taymiyyah, he came and everybody just was surrendered, and no one was questioning what the Ash'ari believed. No one was bringing their stuff out and really showing the people. So he unearthed so much things. So he became a nuisance to the rulers and those around the rulers, because again, it's like the dominant idea is this: you're coming with absurd things. What are you talking about? Where did you get that from? And so it was like are you there? And people, when they are fixed on something, and somebody brings them something new, They all like, no, he left the religion. That's what happened to Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyya. So he was accused of heresy. He was accused of apostating. And actually, I'll tell you something. One of the times he got arrested was because of the issue of the talaq al-thalath. Sah? The 3 talaq. What did Ibn Taymiyyah believe? If you do 3 talaq, it becomes what?
1.
He believed it was 1. This goes against the call of the 4 imams. The most the prominent idea that every fatwa at that time was like 3. And that mas'ala by itself caused him imprisonment. And he was beaten and he was harmed, rahimahullah, because of it. Today, that's the only fatwa that's applied everywhere in the world, even Azhar. Everywhere in the world, that's become the what? The official fatwa. Sah? That fatwa he gave, rahimahullah ta'ala, he got imprisoned for and beaten and all that. So it was ideologies that he... The biggest issues that he had was the issue of Allah's names and attributes. Are we all together? Let me explain something to you guys. Ibn Taymiyyah, Asha'ira is a group that came out from a man by the name of Abul Hassan al-Ash'ari. Abul Hassan al-Ash'ari, before he came with this belief, he was a Mu'tazili. A Mu'tazili is a group before the Asha'ira. His mother was married to a man of one of the biggest, most knowledgeable men of the Mu'tazila. His name was called Abu Ali al-Jubba'i. That was his father-in-law. One day him and Abul Hassan al-Ash'ari had a discussion back and forth. Abul Hassan al-Ash'ari, he didn't see a convincing answer from his father-in-law or his stepfather. Sah? So he left what his father was upon. Or his stepfather was upon, and he dismissed the belief of the Mu'tazila, and he started to refute the Mu'tazila. Now I want you to understand something. The refutation of the time was against the Mu'tazila. Everyone was refuting the Mu'tazila. Who was refuting the Mu'tazila? Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Abu Uthman al-Darimi. Everyone was Shafi'i. Everyone was refuting the Mu'tazila. They were hated. Everyone is against it. And who helps the scholars of hadith, who also adds on to refuting the Mu'tazila? Abul Hassan al-Ash'ari. And he's one of the best people to refute them, because he was one of them. He knows their inside out, so he wrote books against them. So now listen to this. He's not the target. No one's looking at him. The battle is this way. This man is not part of the problem. So that's where the Asha'ira came from. And no one was focusing on them. Hence why you don't tend to find a lot of refutations on them or against them at that time, because it wasn't them that was being dealt with. But as time went on, the Mu'tazila, the refutation and the criticism really put them down. It destroyed them. It destroyed them. And so what happened? The Asha'ira became the dominant. Behind that silence, they just grew. And to be honest, from that time until Ibn Taymiyyah came, they were big. They were very big, very strong. Until he came, rahimahullah ta'ala, and he just flipped the table on them by himself, single-handedly.
What was the time gap between from the origin of the ideology until Ibn Taymiyyah?
So it's around the 5th century. We're talking about at least 4,500 years, roughly, where the idea was being pumped. And a lot of people were swallowing it. And he went, look, he said, this is what you guys are saying. Let's go back to the original sources. Let's go back to where we should all go back to. Let's check what you guys are saying. Again, another thing people say is, okay, so everyone before Ibn Taymiyyah didn't know they were falsehood? No, it's because 2 factors. Today, if I say something crazy, it goes on social media, everyone's going to see it. So there's going to be a quick response. Back then, there wasn't like that. It will take months and months, maybe years for people to hear about it. They might even hear about it once I die. Alhamdulillah. They might not even hear about it. Sah? So the world wasn't like, hello, what did he say? What's beliefs? What's happening there? It wasn't. So even if a group came out in one particular land, the rest of the other lands may not know about it. For a long time, they may not know about it. The point I can hear is that many scholars did not respond to them is because there's many factors. Some people just don't like the idea of fighting back. Some people, they don't like that. They just like to be quiet. Let me just give my da'wah. Leave me alone. I don't want to cause, I don't want to rock the boat. People are going to start hating me. So that's what a lot of people did. He didn't have that Ibn Taymiyya. Ibn Taymiyya was direct and straight. So he took a lot of heat for it. Even the people who were with him, they didn't take that heat that he took. Who believed what he believed. They didn't take the heat that he took, rahimahullah ta'ala, for what he believed. Rahimahullah rahmatan. That's why I say, it's like Allah sent him, subhanahu wa ta'ala, to revive the sunnah that was about to wear out. And as I said, you either like him or you hate him, but you're going to come across him in your life of Islamic studies. Ibn Taymiyya is not a figure you can ignore. You can't ignore him, rahimahullah ta'ala. Last question.
You mentioned about the text of Ibn Taymiyya. A lot of them are buried or burnt. And there are hundreds, thousands of works that are still, are they preserved somewhere? Because there will be a lot of publishers who will be publishing by his name. So how do we know it is really his work or somebody just, so these are two points.
So there is some books that were mentioned by Ibn Abdul Hadi we don't have. There's some name books that are mentioned and we just don't have. He's saying that Ibn Taymiyyah wrote this book. We're like, where is it then? We just don't have it. So maybe 100 years from now it pops up. Another thing is, his handwriting is known. 3, the content of the information that's in it. 4, the books get referenced by other people who wrote it from it. So sometimes we see the reference of this book, but we don't know where this reference was taken from. Until we actually find the book and we say, okay, Fulan referenced it. And referenced it back to Ibn Taymiyyah. It's a science. And it's not just Ibn Taymiyyah, any works like that. It's an entire science where people, the concept of attribution of books. Like for example, the kitab تنبيه الرجل العاقل في تمويه الجدل الباطل by Ibn Taymiyyah. When it came out, Dar Alim al-Fawaid, they got a lot of heat for it. Because a lot of scholars, they said, this is not Ibn Taymiyyah's works. And Dar Alim al-Fawaid had to come out with all of their efforts to show that this was written by Ibn Taymiyyah. So it's not like everyone just takes it, oh, Ibn Taymiyyah wrote it. Really, Jazakallah khairan. There is a back and forth amongst the muhaqqiqeen, whether he wrote this book or whether he didn't. But I'll tell you something, and I'll conclude with this, inshallah ta'ala. It's sad. It's really sad that a lot of his works are in the lands of the non-Muslims. British Museum, there's so much manuscripts. I get phone calls from some of the scholars, they send me and they say to me, Abdul Rahman, can you find this manuscript in the British Museum? Can you go to Birmingham University and get this copy? Can you go to Cardiff and get this copy from this particular place? Can you go to Germany and Berlin and get this copy? Berlin, Germany, I can't go there, I can't even speak German. But these works are taken, and Sheikh Muhammad Shakir rahimahullah ta'ala, in his kitab Risalat fi Tariq ila Thaqafati, Abatin wa Asmar, Muhammad Shakir mentions that when the French came into Egypt, they took the library of Al-Jabarti. All of the manuscripts and everything went there. It was one of the biggest libraries in Egypt. And they stole, people just thought they stole money and the minerals and the resources of the country, like what the British did to India. They took all the resources and all the money and everything, right? But they also took manuscripts. They all took all these their archives and everything. They stole everything, these people. And they put it in their museums. And what's sad is that Muslims come and they travel to the UK and these countries and European countries, and guess where they go to? Parties and clubs and things like that. Are we all together? I mean, One of the guys that work in British Museum said to me, why are there not many Muslims coming and visiting us? Like, why don't they want this stuff? Sah? So yeah, when we go, we go to the country to see Big Ben and Eiffel Tower and London Bridge, places I've never been to. The 30 odd years of my life that I've been in the UK, places I've never been to, people come to me and say to me, have you been there? I was like, I didn't even know it existed. Muslims should understand that I never travel to a country and go on sightseeing. I just go to their libraries and books that they have. A Muslim should not busy himself with the landscape. And it's good, don't get me wrong. Okay, قُلْ سِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Before you guys say to me, what about the ayah? قُلْ سِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Of course, it's good to see the landscape, but not buildings, though. Not buildings.
So, do they allow these scholars to benefit from the
Of course, they want money. They took it from you because they want money.
and they are preserved?
Oh, you're beautifully preserved. They're in glasses and they're fancy and it looks at you like that and it costs like £10,000. Yeah, it costs money. It costs a lot of money to get those works from them. One of the books that we have, Kifayatul Akhyar, which is the sharh of Kitab Mukhtasar Kifayatul Akhyar by Al-Husni. It's one of the beginner books for the sharh of Madhab Shuja', Fiqh Shafi'i. The best publication, Darul Minhaj published it. The best publication they got it from Berlin, Germany. All the other copies were bad from Germany. Even Princeton University and Harvard and all of these universities, Cambridge and all of them, they have lots of manuscripts. So many manuscripts. You want it, you have to pay money. You have to pay money.
Even to look at it?
You can look at it if you want to, yeah. You just can't put your hand on the glass. And sometimes they don't let you take pictures of it. Well, a lot of the times they don't let you take pictures of it. So imagine, you take over a country, you add to your list of things that you need to take from what? Their works and their books. I'll tell you something I read. Aristotle, Alexander the Great, they call him, right? Was a student of who? Alexander, they say, was a student of Aristotle, right? Aristotle was his teacher. And he used to conquer countries and open lands. And he was their hero, the commander, the military. Aristotle said to him, and please remember this as long as you live. Aristotle said to him, if you ever go to a country and you take over, don't look for who's the ruler of the country. The ruler of the country is the one who writes music for them. The one who writes their music is a ruler. Meaning, the person who writes their language is the ruler of the country. The real ruler of the country is what? In other words, when the British and the British, they left India and they left other countries that they colonized, do you know what they left behind? The English language. Very powerful. I read in one of the journals that was written by one of the commanders that went to India, wrote a letter to the general, and he said to him, if we ever, the British, the Mujrimeen, if we ever get put in a position where we have to choose between India and William Shakespeare, we're going to choose William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare is what? One person. India had the resources, the money, the wealth, and everything that India had, right? Meaning, who really controls the world is the person whose language is spoken. Are we all together, brothers? I'm shocked. My jaw drops when I look at people who've never been to Western countries who speak English. I'm like, how? You guys are all in Kuwait. And a lot of you might say, I don't speak Arabic. How is it that you speak English then? That's what they wanted. Are we all together? I don't want to mention some countries because I don't want to be banned from going to it. There's a law, if you want to study the Arabic language, it's so much money. To study the English language, the British Council gives you basically no money. You can study English. Why? Why is the English language free? Why can I study English language? Why are you guys willing to teach me the English language for free, basically? And the Arabic language is so expensive. So much money is charged for people to learn the Arabic language. Are we all together, brothers? I am telling you, as long as you are absent from the Arabic language, you're losing out so much. You are an outsider from your own religion. That you've chosen to do this to yourself. Are we all together? I was reading, I love reading about the importance of the Arabic language. I know I'm going off topic, but when the Zionist government, Israel, wanted Palestine, and they took over Palestine, they didn't have a language. Hebrew was not a spoken language, it was a written language, it was a script. It was just it was like the Torah. How would they turn the Torah's language into the day-to-day conversation? This was one of the aqabat that came, one of the obstacles that they had. Are we all together, brothers? They were not going to only take that language, but they had to actually go out of their way to turn it into a modern language which can keep up with technology, which can keep up with all the modern things, and write a dictionary. That's what they had to think of. Are we all together? Why are they going to put all that money and that effort and that resource and that time into that language? Why don't you just dismiss it and choose English as their... Why? Are we all together? They knew that language bonds them to what? Language is just more than... Language is more than words that come out of your mouth. It's what? It's a way of thinking. If you speak Arabic, I promise you, and someone records you, your body language is different from when you speak English, and your body language is different from when you speak your mother tongue language. The whole demeanor, your whole body. I study linguistics, that's my field of study. When I went to uni, I studied applied linguistics. That's what I did my postgraduate into in university. This is when I wanted to know, lugha, this. Are we all together, brothers? As Muslims, if the Quran was not Arabic, the Arabic language would have gone a long time ago. But because the world is pegged on what currency? The dollar. The dollar is every currency was pegged on the dollar. Is that true? Yeah. The Arabic language is pegged on the Quran. That's what's preserving it. إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا ذِكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. Because Allah is protecting the Quran, and the Quran will forever be protected. No one can change it. That's why the Arabic language will live forever. But the people of that language, the Muslims, they abandoned it a long time ago. Are we all together, brothers? It's abandoned. So, inshallah, after this Torah or these sessions that we're having, what you guys are all going to do? Learn the Arabic language. You're going to be a free man, honestly. You're going to go to the ocean yourself and take from it. You're not going to need Miskin Rahman, and you're not going to need anybody else. If your father wrote you a letter, and your father was a billionaire, and he wrote you a letter, and he died a day or two ago, and he wrote you a letter, and in there you could see some dollar signs, and you could see something there, but it's in a language you don't understand, what would you do? What would you do with that letter? You wouldn't just translate it. You would not just translate it. You would get so many different people to translate it for you because you're worried that the first person might have told you something wrong. Sah? You're going to make sure that this information is... Sah? Why? Because you want the dollar sign. Sah? How is that possible that the Quran that has better than a dollar sign, the salvation in this world and the hereafter is connected to it, and you don't even want to know what's inside it? Sah? Ask yourself that question and think about it. Sah? So then the dollar sign is more important to you than the what? Your place in Jannah.